Hello, this is YLAM, and today we're going to be looking at Lumenier's newest frame. This is called the QAV-X CHARPU edition. Comes in this nice glossy blue box. Definitely the nicest packaging that we've seen a frame come in so far. We're going to go ahead, open it up, build it, and give you our thoughts on it. So let's go ahead and open up the box. So we'll come to this side, go ahead and peel back the packaging tape, which is quite difficult. Okay. So this isn't a fold-out box, this is actually a slide-out box. So you actually need the tape out on both sides. So there we go. So this is what it looks like on the inside. We get our standard packaging that we'll kind of expect from Lumenier, which it'll give you your stickers and all of your accessories in one nice pouch. In here we have our standard Lumenier stickers that we're kind of used to seeing. The standard PDB board that we're used to seeing from Lumenier as well. It's quite stuck in there. PDB board from Lumenier. The small strap, pretty used to seeing that as well. 2 strips of their neoprene that they always include. Kind of useful, kind of not. Some people use them, some people don't. The nylon spacers and nylon nuts for your PDB board and your flight controllers. Some zip ties for your VTXs. Your XT60 cable for your PDB board right there. And then we have your aluminum spacers. So these are the aluminum spacers for your for your top plate. And what you'll notice on these is that these are much shorter than what we're used to seeing on Lumenier's frames. These are actually 28 millimeters as opposed to the standard 35 millimeters that we're used to seeing on their frames. So they're much shorter. They still have this nice texture on it, so it's easy to grip and it's easy to hold on to while you're putting on a hex nut, but definitely shorter. And there are some pros and cons to this, and we'll discuss this as we build the frame. Here's some screws, most likely the ones that either hold the motor or hold the frame on, and some more screws. These are a little bit longer than the other ones. Another zip tie, and these look like long screws with spacers on them. I'm not sure what they're used for, but we'll figure it out as we build the frame. That's it for this Ziploc bag. You have the base plate. This one is actually the 3 millimeter version. We opted for the lighter version for the one that we purchased. This is the top plate for the QAV-X. This is the bottom plate for the battery holder. They included that. And then these are the side camera plates. And this is the back of the top plate for your video transmitter. They thickened it out so that if you break this piece, you can easily replace it. It also adds a little bit more support for the back part of the quad. So that's good to have. And that's everything that comes with the packaging. So we'll go ahead and start opening this up and start building it and give you our thoughts on it. So this frame is actually fairly easy to put together. There's not really a whole lot of moving pieces, which is always a plus. I always like simple frames. As always, when you get a chance, wipe off the carbon fibers. There's always going to be carbon fiber dust on the frame itself, and you don't want to be touching this and breathing this and getting it all over your fingers. So quick thing to do, just get a wet towel and then wipe off your carbon fiber. The first thing we did was we just went ahead and installed the 28 millimeter spacers onto the base plate. So if you are used to seeing QAV frames, you're going to notice that these spacers are going to be much shorter than what you're used to seeing. That's a good thing if you're trying to save weight, but on the downside is that since they're 28 millimeters, there's really not a whole lot of people that make 28 millimeter spacers. So if you're going to be using this frame, you definitely want to carry additional 28 millimeter spacers with you. There's just not going to be a whole lot of people that are going to be having that particular size, you know, as part of their spares. So, you know, if you go to a race and then you strip one of these or two of these off, you're probably not going to find somebody that have 28 millimeter spacers handy. And the only people that you're probably going to get them from is Lumenier, and they have a tendency to sell out of these spacers. At least that's what I expect, because the 35 millimeter ones sell out all the time. So definitely get some extra spacers if you intend on using this frame with these spacers. Very simple to install. You can just hand tighten these down and they're ready to go. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take the two side camera plates, and with the remaining 28 millimeter spacer, you're just going to tie them together with a M3 6 millimeter screw. So it'll look something like this. This is going to be your camera holder. At the top of this, there's actually a plate which will be handy for holding a GoPro on top of the camera mount right here. But you don't really need to put this on, and it doesn't look like there's any mechanism for holding this on except for friction, which is kind of odd, because that would make this very simple to lose if you're actually not carrying a GoPro. So you might want to, once you put it on, dab a little either hot glue or just use a little tape, otherwise you're going to lose this piece. But just looking from the design right now, there is nothing but friction just holding this on, so definitely something that can be easily lost, but I guess it's not that big of a deal. Once you have this completely built up, which is really easy to do, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and install it onto the Lumenier top plate. So fairly easy to do. The pointed jagged end goes to the back of the top plate, and it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle in which you have to fit it in just perfectly. So you slide it in, and what you want to do is right here, if you'll notice, there's a notch, and what you want to do is you want that notch to be fit right on the bottom of the base plate, and then there's going to be a notch up top that's going to fit to the back, and that's going to give you a very nice snug fit for this particular camera mounting system. So go ahead and get that in, and then once you have that in, you kind of have to just push, and then it just locks in place, so it becomes very rigid. Again, we're using quite a lot of carbon on carbon friction to keep everything together, but it seems to work pretty well. There's definitely no movement after you put that in, but first time through, you're going to have to use quite a bit of force in order to get it all in, and then you can have the camera mounts right here, and you can install your camera and then tighten the screws in right here. The instructions, which you can find on Lumenier.com, says don't put the screw in first, which is you're going to have to do that, otherwise it won't fit through the top of the base or the top plate. Once you do that, it's fairly easy to just line up everything and then put it all together. So let me go ahead, line up the bottom of the base plates, and there you go. So once that's done, we're almost finished putting this together. The only thing that we need to put together, and this is an optional piece, much like the camera holder up top is also optional. You can have an additional layer of carbon fiber back here for your VTX to beef it up, so that, you know, on strikes towards the back, because this is where your antenna is going to go. So let me try to move my fingers. So it beefs up the back against strikes, so that as your VTX is sitting back here, if the antenna gets struck while going through a gate, it should protect the back a little bit, and if this breaks, it's easily replaceable rather than having to replace the whole top piece. So good solid bit of engineering. But if you're just planning on going super light, then you can just remove this and just install your VTX without it and save a little bit of weight. Again, it's up to you, but a good bit of engineering to help make this frame stronger. So here is the completely built frame. As you can tell, it's very easy to build. It's definitely intended for racing and for freestyle. This is one of their true X frames, which means that from motor to motor on all sides, they're all evenly spaced apart. So for most flight controllers, it's very easy for them to figure out how to move this quad around with a true X frame. Definitely in vogue right now. One of the things that most people will probably debate on is whether or not they like a single piece base plate. I personally like single piece base plates. It makes things more simplistic. Generally speaking, if I'm going to be going to an event, I'm going to be bringing more than one quad anyways. So for me, I do prefer the single piece base plates, but a lot of people don't. But Lumenier already has a racing frame that has replaceable arms. So this frame kind of complements that other waist frame, which is the QAV-R. I do like the simplicity. The camera plate design, once you install the top plate to the bottom plate, it's very rigid. It's really not going to go anywhere. The only thing that you'll have to just make sure to look at is that since the spacers are shorter and this area of the camera plate up top here does intrude on your flight controller stack, if your stack is too large and your VTX is also a little bit beefier than what they initially planned for, you might have some room issues, but I doubt it. 28 millimeters is still a lot of room in the middle for you to build stuff. So I think it's really well designed. Whoever flies this, they'll probably really enjoy it. Some things to note. In here, they do have all of the nylon pieces for your PDB board, so that's always a good thing. So that's in there. They have screws for your motors. That's always nice, although most motors comes with screws anyway, so probably be extras. These are the M66 millimeters. We have plenty of left over, so I guess if you need the 6 millimeter versions for your motor screws, plenty of leftovers. This bag is a bit of a mystery to me. I'm not sure what it is. It could be used for multiple things, so I really didn't open it and use it. These look like either M810s or M38 millimeters, 10 millimeters, or 12 meters, and then there are aluminum spacers on those. I'm not sure if they're used for the flight controller stack or if they're supposed to be used for the back of this frame for the VTX, but kind of a mystery bag for me. Not really quite sure where to use this one. Aside from that, all the regular accessories are kind of self-explanatory. This particular one is to hold the battery on the bottom. This is intended for you to hold the battery on the bottom, as the top plate, well, this slot right here is for looking for your VTX, and then this plate right here up top is for your GoPro mount, which you don't need this specific plate on there, but that's how it would look. So it's a bottom carrying machine, which I tend not to like, but most people have been going in that direction for it. So that's a quick look at the QAV-X. Definitely an interesting frame. I do like it, but I'm not really a big fan of carrying the battery at the bottom. It kind of beats up your battery quite a bit. The battery protector does help, so that might alleviate some of the issues. The price on it is it's a fairly good affordable frame compared to other frames out there. You can find cheaper for a true X frame, definitely, but if you like the Lumenier brand and you like their quality, then definitely worth checking out. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below, and until next time, thank you.